Well, good afternoon, YouTube, family and friends, and welcome to one of my two flight simulators. This one here is the one that I use the least. It's called Prepared 3D, version 3.4. And the reason I'm showcasing this simulator first is because it has what's called a study level airplane that was added to the simulator. So the airplane that you're seeing is the Precision Manuals Development Group, or PMDG for short, McDonnell Douglas MD-11. They came out with this product originally for Microsoft Flight Simulator back in 2008, and I was able to port it and make it work on Prepared 3D here, which is basically in essence the same background as Flight Simulator, Microsoft Flight Simulator. So what is, I guess the question is, and this is why I made this video, what is a study level sim? Now I chose this one because I'm a licensed commercial pilot, but never pursued it as a career. And I was always really interested in learning about airline operations, everything about it, how, from what the pilots were doing, from the technical aspect of the aircraft, etc. And that's why I had purchased this airplane. I believe it was in 2010, and it's been real fantastic. So just to show you guys here, and we'll get in the cockpit in a second. Oh, and by the way, where are we here? Let's zoom that out. It's beautiful here. We're at Princess Juliana International Airport on St-Maarten Island, which is the Dutch Antilles. And this airport is real famous for its runway that is basically, makes you take off right towards the mountain. And we're going to do a short flight between here and Curacao, so another Dutch Antilles island, which is about an hour-and-a-half trip. Now I've already completed all the paperwork for the flight, and we'll get to that later. So that's what I want to show you. So here we go. So what's a study level sim? So I'm just going to go here and undo this so I can show you what this plane came with. So this plane, when you buy it, it comes with a lot of manuals. So this 87-page manual is just, how do you install it, all the settings, all the options it has in the game, recommendations, graphic settings, all that good stuff. Okay, so that's pretty much, and all the options that the plane comes with. So that's what that one does. Then, of course, is the normal checklist, and I have this here on my iPad. Then there's the quick reference handbook, which is a real handbook that pilots would have on board, and they cover all the alerts, the non-alerts, configuration, engines, fuel, hydraulics, etc., etc. That's 220 pages. Then next we have the flight crew operating manual, and this definitely they're going to have on board. It talks about the limitations, the normal procedures, supplemental procedures, emergency procedures, etc. So this is really, performance data, and it's 436 pages. And the flight management system operating manual. So that's everything that we input, and we'll get to this. Everything we input into the flight management computer for the entire flight. And this document here is 220 pages. The aircraft systems, this is 534 pages. And yes, I have read this, not just once, but I've referred to it many, many times. And then what happens is I use a software program, which is web generated. It's called SimBrief. And basically it generates what pilots would receive in real life. So a dispatcher gives the flight crew a package which they review an hour or two before the flight, and this is 24 pages. So it details the trip, my flight number. Well, of course, this is the flight. So I'm KLM 789. This is 16th of May. We're going from Princess Juliet Airport to to Curacao. Did I say Juliet? Princess Juliana Airport. And so it's an MD-11, and this is the call sign of the aircraft, etc. What the weather prognosis is at different times. Anyway, so there's a whole bunch of information. My departure time will be 2100 Zulu, and that's basically going to be 5 o'clock. Okay, so 5 p.m. And what else? Anyway, so there's a whole bunch of information that you're going to see that I'm going to be inputting into the flight management computer, and this is the total fuel I need, so 41,585 pounds. And then later on, it also tells me, well, if I climb 1,000 feet up, how does that affect my flight? So how does that affect my fuel burn, my weight, etc. So these are the operational impacts if ever we have to change altitude. This is all the detailed weight that I have on board, so passengers, cargo, fuel, etc. And these are all the waypoints. Okay, now I got this trip here, all these waypoints that are entered into the flight management computer. I got this from a real world flight, and it's simple. We just go to flightplan.com. Oh, sorry, it's not flightplan.com. We go to, and you might even have this as an app on your phone, FlightAware. And it's very simple. I just did TNCM, and we were going to TNCC, Hato Airport in Curacao. And that's it. So it gives me the information. So I took this flight here, KLM 789. Okay. And here basically, the only difference is this has been flown by an Airbus. KLM used to fly this plane, the MD-11. I think they were the last airline flying this for passenger services, and they quit about it in 2014. So I don't believe there's any more MD-11s flying passengers. They're strictly flying cargo now. So FedEx has a whole bunch of them, etc. So this is the route that I'm going to be doing. So I'm doing a real route, a real world route for this flight. And we'll get to these approach plates later. Alright, so without further ado, let's go in here. And just to show you, let's get out of this. Let's go back to full screen. When I bought this plane, I also bought high definition liveries from McFat Studios, and it's called the World Airlines Pack. And here, alright, so you could see that as we move along, we could see the reflection of the sun. You see here how the letters, you see them very well, and as we're getting into the sun, you're not seeing them as much, etc. So anyway, for something that came out quite a number of years ago, by today's standards, it's still not bad. The only place it's really showing age is inside the cockpit. In my other simulator, X-Plane 11, it's a lot nicer. So anyway, let's step inside. Okay, so alright, so the co-pilot normally would go ahead and prepare the aircraft. So he would just go here and go here. Alright. Oh, the chair's still in the way there. Anyway, I got it programmed here on key number 6. Okay, so we're inside the aircraft. What the co-pilot's going to do is, one of the first things he's going to do is make sure that the cockpit is secured. Now, the reason why you're seeing things on is airliners are always traveling. Okay, so this airplane, the route that this aircraft used to do often, so it used to go from Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, and it would go to Curacao, drop off some vacationers there, and then drop off the other vacationers afterwards at here at Princess Juliet, at St-Maarten. And so that's what we're assuming, that passengers got off some time ago, and we're going to be boarding our other passengers to basically to our return flight back to Schiphol, but by first going to Curacao. So the first thing the first officer will do, he'll come in and he'll make sure the cockpit is secure. Secure meaning, you know, the gear handle is down, the flaps are up, the slats are up, the throttle is set to off, the fuel switches are off, the starters are disengaged, things of that nature. I'm not going to go over everything. The video will be too long. Next, what you're seeing here. So one of the reasons right now you're seeing, and here we could zoom in, we're seeing on the primary flight display attitude fail, and on the navigational display same thing, heading fail, is that the aircraft doesn't know where it is. So let's just go step in the captain's side and look up. And you all know about GPS, but aircraft have a self-contained system to know where it is, where the aircraft is at all times in 3 dimensions. And it makes a lot of sense, because imagine if all the airliners depended on GPS and they would be knocked out of the sky. A whole bunch of airliners wouldn't know where they were going. So this is called the IRS, or the Inertial Reference System, and it has 3 independent units, or IRUs, Inertial Reference Units. And when I'm going to turn on the first one, it's actually at the same time going to give me the cargo fire test here. If ever there was a fire in the cargo hull, this is the sound that it would make. Okay, so that's going to take 10 minutes. Here, this battery is supposed to be on. So this is going to take 10 minutes to align like in real life. And what we're going to do here, just going to minimize this, and we're going to go to the MCDU. This is the Multifunction Control Display Unit. And this is what interfaces with the flight management computer. So this is where we're going to put all the information about the flight. So interesting here, this is an MD-11 with deflected ailerons. I'll show you that in a minute what that is. With the, it's not the Pratt & Whitney engines, it's the, yeah, these are the, you know what guys, I forgot. You know, let's take a look. It's going to give me more information. No, it's not the Pratt & Whitney, so these are the General Electrics, I believe. The operational program, picture this as a software program. So different airliners have slightly different software into their flight management system. Okay, so that's what that is. This here is the navigational database, and I subscribe to a database made for flight simming, but it's the exact database like in the real world, based on the Jeppesen database. And this is the 5th one of 2018, and it's was issued at the 26th of April, and it's valid till May 23rd. And then on May 23rd, there'll be a new one, which will be the 1806, covering another month. So that's it for the aircraft status. We're going to go on flight plan, and it's telling me to initialize the IRS. Okay, so it's going to take a little while. So we're going to see here on position reference, initialize, and that's fine. So it's going to take 10 minutes, and let's just see here. You see how these are still lit? That's going to go away when they are aligned. Okay, now second thing we're going to take care of. This here is called the EAD, or the Engine Alert Display. And on it, anything that's yellow are things that need to be taken care of before we take off. So right now, of course, we have the cargo doors and the main cabin door open. The cabin pressure system is on manual. We want that to be on automatic, so we're going to go ahead and put that on automatic, and it's right over here. Okay, and it's going to disappear. And then we have the emergency lights disarm, and we're going to put that on auto. That's for the emergency lights for the passengers, you know, on how to get to their exits. And there's actually a test that's done with the cabin crew. But we're not going to do that right now. For now, I'm just going to arm it, and it disappears. And finally, the emergency power. And we're going to arm it. It's doing a self-test here, and it's no longer appears. Anything that's in blue are items that I did turn on, which are normal. So external power is on, the galley external power, so the crew can make, you know, can heat up meals and make warm coffee. So the cabin doors are open. The IRU are aligning right now, so that is fine. Now getting back to the external power. Now the simulator doesn't mimic this, but normally on the outside I'd be seeing a cart with the electric power hooked up underneath the aircraft, and but we don't see that on the outside. But we are on external power. Now I'm going to go here, and it's going to get hot inside because I believe it's 28 or 26 degrees. So in the ground connections, we're going to actually connect some air here. Okay, and we're going to assume that the first officer also did the walk around. So he went around the aircraft and made sure that nothing abnormal was spotted, torn tires, for example, hydraulic fluid leaking, things of that nature. And I'm not going to get into the details of that. Okay. Moving along, there's a lot of things that he'll do, and the captain will both do oxygen tests to make sure that their oxygen donning masks work. And actually the first officer has an extra duty where he tests the 2 pressure lines for the oxygen that is supplied for him and the captain. That's amongst some of the things that he's going to do. I'm not going to cover everything he's going to do, or else it's going to be way too long. But I just wanted to show you some cool things in the plane, like in the real life, and that's why I'm showing you this plane. So here, let's take a look at this entire area is the overhead panel. So one of the first things we'll do is all the oral warnings.
Slide slope. Pull up. Terrain, terrain. Pull up. Sink rate, sink rate. Pull up. Terrain, terrain. Pull up.
Okay.
Don't sink, don't sink. Too low, terrain. Too low, gear. Too low, flaps. Too low, terrain. Glide slope.
Okay, so that's that. Then there's the engine and APU fire test. The APU is the auxiliary power unit, and we'll talk about that later. So we'll just pull the test, make sure that everything lights up and we hear the warnings and we see the messages on the EAD. Okay.
Engine 1, fire.
So it's testing APU, engine 2,
fire.
1, 2, 3.
Engine 3, fire.
And we also see it on the system's information display, and it's already telling you land at near a suitable airport. And here are the fuel switches that are also lit up, and the master cautions with these alerts here. And here, let's zoom in so you can see how those look like. So master warning and master caution. All right. Another little test here is the cockpit voice recorder. It's just to make sure we have tone, that it works, and then it could even be erased. Anyway, nothing happens here, but you could press the button, but nothing happens. Another important test is to make sure that all the lights are functioning. So all the bulbs here are functioning. So we're going to do a test.
Overspeed.
And take a look at that. And it's also giving the overspeed warning.
Overspeed.
Okay.
Overspeed.
Okay. And the last one we'll check is we're going to do the hydraulic systems pressure test. So we're going to go here. We're going to press this, and I'll show you what that's all about. So we're going to go and look at the system's information display. Now this is the only display that you can change information that's on it. So right now it's on engine, but we can go to hydraulic, electric, air, fuel, configuration, miscellaneous, consequences, okay, of the systems being off. So anyway, we're going to go back to hydraulic. Okay, and we're doing what's called the hydraulics pressure test now. So right now it's on. And what happens is that we have 2 backup auxiliary pumps for our 3 main hydraulic lines, and they're basically, each one is driven by each engine. So this is driven by engine number 3, number 1, and that's number 2. So now the 2 pumps are on, they're giving pressure to the first system here, and that's why the system 3 is not lit, because it's got pressure, and the system 1 is not lit because it has pressure. The system 2 does not have pressure, and we can see it's only at 20 psi here. And now all three. Now it's giving pressure to pump 1, pump 2 is giving auxiliary pump 1 and pump 2 are giving pressure to all three. And now it's starting to release the pressure on the system 1 hydraulic system. And these other lights will come on as the pressure drops. There we go. So I believe it's below 2400. It drops. And that's it. So a hydraulic pressure test is done. Okay. All right. So next little thing we're going to do is we're going to put fuel in the plane. So we took a look before at our weighting balance, and here I'm just going to go here and so load sheet, passenger, trip fuel, taxi out fuel, total payload, that's not what I want. This is my takeoff fuel. There's two places I can get this. And okay, so this is the load sheet, this is fine. Total payload, 0 fuel weight. Okay, so those are my weights, that's fine, but I just need my total fuel. Taxi time, end of load sheet. Block fuel. Alright, so here we go. The block fuel is 43,400 pounds. Okay, so what we're going to do here is over here, 43.4. I'm going to enter this. Okay, so what happens is, one, the aircraft is going to be refueled. It'll be refueled, if you will, and there won't be any mistakes. Here it's on flight management systems mode, so it shows me how many pounds of fuel need to be put into the first 3 tanks. I don't need any in the auxiliary and in the tail tank either. So we're going to do start, and we can see right here that it's filling, but there's also 2 other places we're going to see that. We're going to see that here. As you can see, it's filling up, and we're going to see it on the system information display here. Hang on, this guy's in the way of me pushing the buttons. Fuel, and there you go. So tank number, it's going to start with tank number 2, and then it'll do the other 2 tanks. All right, so basically, let's go back to init. So this was the first thing I entered. Flight management computers have what's called the company route, and so they have a lot of them that are already programmed. So people just need to call up the origin, the destination, and there's going to be a whole list of the different routes for that origin destination. Or another way is you type it in here with the slash, and then you have to enter all the waypoints manually. Okay, so with my flight sim, with the program I have, I was able to it produces the same result as if I download a file, I put it inside a particular folder, and then I just call it up here in the company route, and you'll see that in a minute. So now the plane knows where it is. It knows its longitude and latitude. We're KLM 789. We're going to be flying at 40,000 feet. The temperature is going to be -57, and you know what? I forgot to program this part of it, guys. So as you can see, I missed something here, and let me go fix that right away real quick. Okay, so we're going to go right here, and here the average wind was -18, so I had a headwind, and the average ISA was +4 colder. So +4 colder. So this should be -53, and this should be a headwind HD of 0.18. Okay, so that's good. I just had to fix that. And the flight management computers also, since it has the weight information inside the plane, it's also confirming to me that my optimal flight level for this flight is 40,000 feet. Cost index is basically a number that the dispatchers come up with depending on the weight of the plane, the meteorological conditions, the runway conditions, basically, and the distance of the trip, and basically it sets the climb, the cruise, and the descent power needed to be most efficient for the trip. So that's what the cost index is. I mentioned before the runway conditions. That has nothing to do with it. It's more for the climb, cruise, and for the descent speeds. All right, so we're going to go to the next page here. Please tell me you're not crashing. All right, hang on. We're just going to go back to views, full screen. All right. Okay, we're good. All right, so block fuel, that's the fuel I'm using, is 43.4. So here's my takeoff gross rate of 392,700 pounds. Zero fuel weight is 350.8. My landing weight is 372.1. And here's the center of gravity. This is as I'm burning fuel, right? The weight is being redistributed along the aircraft, and I have to make sure that if I have no fuel, am I still properly balanced? And I am. So here's my trip. Well, I'll need, just for the trip itself, is close to 21,000 pounds of fuel. So it's an estimated an hour, 16 minutes. Plus I have a 10% route reserve. So that's another 2,100 pounds. 4,500 pounds for my alternate. I have also 30 minutes of extra fuel, so which is 6,600 pounds. And I still have some extra time in the tanks, even beyond that for missed approaches, etc. So that's what I have here on my fuel page. And we don't have to preoccupy ourselves with that page. We're going to go into this takeoff page. So this is important. Okay, to airline companies to increase the life of the engines, there's something that it's called flex temperature that you can put in here. It's basically you're trying to trick the engine into not giving the maximum power when the meteorological conditions and the runway conditions permit you to do that. In my case, this is a very steep takeoff. I have to turn 180 degrees right. It's very hot. So I'm not going to be using any flex temperature. I'm actually using 111% power. My runway does not have a slope, and I'm going to have a headwind of 15 degrees. It's 27 degrees Celsius. Here's my climb thrust is set at this setting, acceleration at this setting, and this is my engine out acceleration. The flaps will be on 10 degrees. The air conditioning, that's what the packs are on. And here are my V speeds. And here the important thing is, and we're just going to go ahead and pop this out. And look here. Okay, so V1 is 135. V1 is the speed at which, if there's a problem, either I or my first officer calls out a problem, we have to abort the takeoff at or below that speed. Because after that speed, we don't have enough runway to safely stop the aircraft. So we're committed to take off even if there is a problem at that point. Rotation speed is not far behind. It's just at 138, and that's what we're going to check here on the speed tape. My V2 is my engine out speed, which is 159. Okay. VFR is the flaps retraction speed. V3 is the slats retraction speed, or VSR, slats retract, is 201, and I'll show you what those are later on. VCL is the clean configuration, so all the flaps that are up, so that's the minimum speed to be maintained. And that's what that is. And then on the flight plan, I've entered what's called the standard instrument departure. Standard instrument departure is picture like it's a map that explains how ATC wants to regulate the traffic that's leaving their airspace, leaving the airport and their airspace, depending on where the aircraft is going to be going. Is it going northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, south, north, etc.? So that's what this is. and the standard instrument departure, so we're taking off runway 10 and it's 096 degrees. So this is what I have here on the FCP, which is the flight control panel. Okay. Then we have to make a turn to 196 degrees at 420 feet or above. And then we're going to be intercepting the this waypoint, which is the 166 radial on the VOR station that's on the island. And then these are our additional waypoints. So what the first officer and captain have to do is they go to the plan page here, and let's decrease this, and this is how it looks like. So we're going to take off, we're going to do a sharp right turn, we're going to intercept this, and then we're going to do this, whoops, we're going to do this whole circle here. And so we have to verify all the waypoints, okay? And some waypoints, it tells you that you have to be at or above 4,000, for instance here. So there's altitude, and sometimes there's some speed restrictions to respect. But basically, already by this waypoint, we can go 250 knots. It's not a problem. So we will go here, and we continue going all the way to destination. Okay, and even to the alternate, and then it says end of flight plan here. And as you saw the map, there was moving, it was showing all the waypoints. So that in a nutshell is what that does. So we're going to go back to flight plan here, we're going to close this, we're going to go back to map, we will put this on traffic data, that's fine. Okay, so passengers are on board. We're going to go ahead and close the cargo doors. Menu. Now in real life, you know, people are actually physically closing the doors, but in the sim here, I'm just going to go here on cargo doors, and I'm going to go close, close, close. So you're going to see this here now. So they're all closing, 1, 2, and 3 there. They're all closed. All right, next we are going to close the cabin door. We're going to close this. Now there's a whole bunch of add-ons I could add to the sim, but I don't want to spend money on the sim. There's these add-ons that Ground Environment X, for instance, where it's going to bring air stairs automatically, all the catering trucks, all of this cool stuff. Another add-on is you can actually listen to passenger chatter inside the airplane. That's pretty cool. There's you can catch some YouTube videos on that. There's other add-ons to improve, let's just say, the quality of the sky, if you want the sky to be more golden, or etc., or if you want to change the textures of how the ocean looks. I mean, there's tons of stuff that you can add to the simulator, but like I said, I prefer X-Plane, and for that reason I'm not going to be spending any money on this simulator here. I just uniquely fly it for this particular airplane. So let's go back in. We're going to arm all the doors, and we have the indicator here, so now all the doors are locked. We are going to make sure that no smoking, and so the cabin crew is going to buckle everyone up. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to go get our IFR, or Instrument Flight Rules clearance.
Ground, KLM 0789 heavy, type Douglas MD-11, IFR to placement, right to copy. KLM 0789 heavy is cleared to placement, your report as filed. Fly runway heading, climb and maintain altitude 6,000, departure frequency is 128.905, squawk 0036.
Oops.
KLM 0789 heavy, cleared to placement, airport as filed. Fly runway heading, climb and maintain altitude 6,000, departure on 128.905, squawk 0036. KLM 0789 heavy, correct. Contact ground on 130.0.
Okay, so there's sometimes a bit of a problem. What happens is the controller doesn't know I have a standard instrument departure. He's not smart enough to know that. He's just telling me to climb straight ahead, but what he's not realizing is there's a mountain there. So we cannot just climb straight ahead. But he'll figure that out. He's not going to kick me out of the airspace for that. So the altitude that he's clearing us to is 6,000. I'm keeping 240 as an indicated airspeed because that's an airspeed that, in case I do, let's just say after takeoff, I do have a problem. Well, I'm going to go to a holding fix, and at that holding fix, I have to maintain at least 240 knots at that fix. So that's what I'm going to do there. And here, let me just show you guys really before we leave here. So I just showed you that. Okay, so this was a standard instrument departure. That's what I have in my flight management computer. Like I told you, I had to take off, I have to turn right sharply here, and then I have to follow this radial, and then we're going to do this arc, this DME arc, and then finally our exit point is the Dandy waypoint. So we're heading to the southeast. And here are all the instructions that are written here. And of course it gives me the altitude, aerodrome elevation, which is 14 feet, the transition level, transition altitude, which is 5,000 feet, etc. So anyway, so that's all I wanted to show you just real quick. So this is what I have to make sure that's in my flight management computer. And I have the approach plate. In case I have an emergency, I'll have this approach plate handy. You know, so that's it. Okay, we're going to go back to full screen. Okay, and now the first officer, we said that we were going to use 10 degrees of flaps. Whoa, what's going on? Okay, up. 10 flaps, okay. All right, so we're ready to push back, and just going to take a look here. I just want to see how far we got to go. Okay, so that's fine. All right, so we're going to go ahead and push back. Go back to shortcuts, push back. Let's go straight 25. That would be better. My nose needs to turn not right but left, and it needs to turn 90 degrees. Okay, so actually, can I turn less than this? No, I can't. Okay, that's fine. So we're going to contact the ground crew to push us back, and the simulator again doesn't simulate the pushback truck hooking up the front wheel and pushing us out, so you won't see that, but you'll see us move though.
And ground cockpit. Hi, Captain. We're all set to go up here. We've been cleared to push and start at your discretion.
Martin and I ready for push. Power here, clear, doors closed. We are ready for pushback. Please parking brake, please.
Okay, before I release the parking brake, I forgot we need to turn on the auxiliary power unit, okay? Because right now we're on ground power, and we need to be on an independent source of power for the pushback, because they're going to disconnect the external power. So we're just going to hang on until that opens. That starts, I should say. Okay, so altimeter setting, we're 3002, captain and co-pilot, that's fine, and we need that on the standby altimeter as well. And that's good. So we got our 43,400 of pounds of fuel. We need to put this, we're going to change this once the engine is on. It's our longitudinal stability, if you will, or what's called the angle nose up. And I'm just going to increase this, increase that. Aborted due to failure, that's fine. Okay, it's on, so we're going to kill the external power. We're going to go back to our setting shortcuts here, and we're going to make sure that, okay, so external power is disconnected, and we're going to disconnect the air. So right now the passengers are not getting any air conditioning, and we are going to go back for the pushback.
And ground cockpit.
Okay.
Go ahead, Captain.
We're all set to go up here. We've been cleared to push and start at your discretion.
Okay, I released the brakes.
Roger that, ready for push. Power and air are clear, doors closed, we are ready for pushback. Please parking brake, please.
Okay, so I'm assuming, not assuming, I know we did our
Brake is
cockpit
off, clear.
preparation. And now we're on the before start checklist, so that's beacon on. APU bleed on. Ignition A. And we're ready. Clear on the left, clear on the right. Ignition engine 3 on. And at 15 and 2, we're going to put fuel on, and the engine's going to go. So as you can see, we're being pushed. Now it wouldn't allow me to turn tighter than that, so he's going to be pushing us on the grass a bit, unfortunately. So you can see here, number 3. That's ridiculous. He wouldn't let me push at the... Alright. So now we're going to do engine number 1. Fuel on.
Push is complete. Set parking brake, please.
Alright, brakes are set and pressure's normal.
Lousy push, okay.
Okay, sir. Don't
Engine
worry,
number
sir.
1.
Pin is out. Watch the pin on the right.
Alright guys, thanks, you're clear.
Alright. And now we're going to start engine number 2.
Roger that.
Normally we would wait this for this to stabilize, but just in the interest of saving time. And fuel on. Okay, now, while that's finishing up, I needed to have an angle nose up of 4.9, so that's what we're going to do here. 4.9 angle nose up. Up. All right, beautiful. We need to put the auto brake takeoff mode. That's done. We're going to arm the spoilers. That's done. We're going to put, that's the slats going down, and we can see that it's indicating here. But we are going to put flaps to 10, so flaps 10 degrees. Okay, so that's going to be our takeoff configuration here. Okay, and we're going to go back up. PAX 2 is still off, and we're going to kill the bleed air from the APU. We don't need it, and at the same time it's going to be shutting off the APU, and now the passengers are getting air conditioning again. Alright, and we're going to be taxiing here, so taxi. Light is on. And before we request a taxi, we're going to look at our system's display here. And we're just going to go through that. Page is fine, hydraulics are fine, electrics are fine. Now in the air, you see how it's a little hot. The blue indicators are where the temperature is set at, so we're going to go ahead and, so in the aft here, I put it at 22. The mid cabin, I'm going to put it at 22. Forward cabin, also 22, and the temperature is, the actual temperature is in white, and it's going to start going down. And the cockpit, we're going to go ahead and put that at 21 here, and you'll see that those temperatures will go down. For the cargo areas, let's just say the aft I wanted 10, I can just put 10 here. And for the forward, I just have a low high switch, so it's either 4 or it's 21. So I'm just going to leave it at 4. and everything's good. So here's my altitude right now, and anyway, we'll take a look at this panel later. Right now the most important one that we need to look at is the configuration here. So this one here, so it's confirming that I have my slats are extended and my flaps are extended 10 degrees. This is because I'm having problems with the joystick. It's showing like not exactly 10. This is the tire pressure for all the 10 tires. Sorry, not the 10 tires. There's more than that. There's 8, 9, 10, 12. And the inner temperature, or those are the brake temperatures, and those actually do change. It simulates this for real. Like after a landing, you'll see that these are very hot, or in a boarded takeoff, they're extremely hot. So we're gonna, both captain and co-pilot need to do this. So elevator up to green, elevator down to green, right rudder, green, left rudder, 2 spoilers on the left and aileron down on the right. It's fine. And here, you'll see it on the outside. Here is what it would look like me turning right. So it would be spoiling the lift here so that this wing dips down, and the aileron would be lifting up the left wing. Well, that's how I turn. And we'll put it back flat. Okay. Alright, so moving along, guys. Bear with me. Now brake. It's still set. Okay, and that's good. So I'm good. I'm all configured in takeoff mode. As you see, all my yellow alerts have disappeared. So we're going to get taxi clearance. I have to get out of this grass here. Okay, so I'm going to acknowledge it. Now this is a nice feature in the simulator. It has what's called progressive taxi, so even if you're not familiar with the airport, you're not comfortable, taxiing, this will give you the route. But here it's ridiculous. There's no planes, and look at all the zigzags it wants me to do here. Okay, so normally we advance the throttle to about 32% N1 to advance. And for sharp 90-degree turns, we shouldn't be going more than 10 knots. But I just want to do a bit of a fast taxi. I'm not going to follow this, guys. I'm just going to go straight ahead since there are no aircraft in front of me. Because normally there'd be aircraft parked here if there were more. And before ATC gave us a transponder code, I forgot to mention that to you, and it's 0036, so this is what's going to identify us from other aircraft. Now, guys, normally there's a crew of 2 flying, so I'm going to be a little, even though I've got an autopilot and all that, I'm still a bit busy here. Okay, so as we're approaching there, I know he's going to give us clearance pretty quick, so we're going to go ahead, turn off all our lights and our high intensity lights, so we're good. And another checklist item for before takeoff before takeoff checklist, I should say, is TARA. Traffic Advisory and Resolution. I forget what the A is. It's not advisory. Resolution. It'll come back to me, guys. But anyway, it's this is all part of the TCAS system, the traffic collision avoidance system. And I've been too far away, been too much away from aviation, so I'm forgetting my terms. And we're going to turn that off, and we're going to tune onto tower, and let's take off clearance.
KLM 0789er Heavy, ready for IFR departure, runway 10. KLM 0789er Heavy, clear for takeoff, runway 10, surface wind 104 at 18.
Okay, great.
Clear for takeoff, runway 10, KLM 0789er Heavy.
1018, so it's a straight headwind. Well, a little bit to the right. Now the only thing I want to... No, it's not what I want. Flight director off. Okay, I want to turn off the flight director. It's just because I'm going to manually fly the takeoff. Actually, the co-pilot's going to do that. So I'm going to, as captain, I'm going to taxi the aircraft to the position, and I'm going to let the co-pilot perform the takeoff. And hopefully we didn't go too far away here. And we need to get the rest of the plane lined up. All right. It's not bad. Let's see. Okay, we're good. All right, so actually my flight director I want on. It's the co-pilot's flight director. That's going to be off here. And that's it. So now what's going to happen is we're going to set our engine power here. EPR 11. Pressure. Just want to keep, okay, well, we're not going to keep that there. Okay, so we're ready for takeoff. We are going to push the up time, and we're off. Stabilize. 1.
knots.
Okay. 80 knots. V1. No problems. We're continuing. We're rotating. I'm going to give her a good 15 degrees pitch up. So captain's going to put the gear up for me, and I'm going to be, and as soon as I hit 400 feet, 300, 400, that's it, right turn out.
0789er heavy, contact Juliana, departure 1128.195.
Yeah.
H2 128.95, KLM 0789er heavy, goodbye.
Okay, and now we're going to engage the auto flight, and we're going to do now profile and navigation. So now the autopilot is completely on.
Juliana, departure KLM 0789er heavy is climbing through 2,600 for altitude 6,000. KLM 0789er.
Okay, flaps retraction.
Roger.
Not yet.
KLM 0789er heavy, turn right, heading to 60, resume on navigation, climb altitude 6,000.
Okay, so 260 he wants.
260, resume on navigation, climb and maintain altitude 6,000, ALM 0789er petty.
So the captain would be doing this for me. All right, there we go. Now we're doing our speed, so we need to retract our flaps. Okay, so we're retracting our flaps.
ALM 0789er petty, turn right, heading 335.
Okay,
Turn right, heading 335, ALM 0789er petty.
so he wants 335.
Departure, ALM 0789er petty, cancel IFR at this time. ALM 0789er petty, understand cancel IFR, please confirm. Negative, do not cancel IFR, ALM 0789er petty. ALM 0789er petty, roger.
Okay, so he wants us.
ALM 0789er petty, climb and maintain altitude 12,000.
All right, so acknowledge 12,000.
12,000, ALM 0789er petty.
Okay. Now the transition altitude normally in the Dutch Antilles here was 5,000, but I don't think this ATC will understand that.
ALM 0789er petty, turn left, heading 240, resume on navigation. Turn left, heading 240, resume on navigation. ALM 0789er petty. ALM 0789er petty. Contact St-Maarten control by 128.65.
Okay, well, hang on, let me just put a dial in 240. All right, and then we're going to assume on navigation. Okay,
Over to 128.65.
we're going to retract the slats.
Slats retract.
And we're going to arm the navigation. And you know what? It's, let's just go to FMC here. We're going to go flight plan. We're going to go direct. Thank you. All right. That's what he wanted. Okay.
Sun 1 Patrol, ALM 0789er petty, with you. ALM 0789er petty, quad control, roger. Altimeter 2998.
Okay,
ALM 0789er petty. Climb flight level 180. Climb flight level 180. ALM 0789er petty.
So as you can see, it gets busy. 2908. Okay.
ALM 0789er petty. Turn right heading 265.
265, yeah, okay.
Turn right heading 265. ALM 0789er petty.
There we go, 265, okay. So the white line here is showing you what 265 is at. Alright, so as we're climbing, okay, that's always the 1,000-foot warning, so because we're We were authorized to flight level 1800. So after takeoff checklist, turn the lights off. Lift off, off, off. All right, people can buckle, unfasten their seatbelts. I mean. Okay, acknowledge 280. We're going to send it to 29902. All right, it's good. Okay, and we're going to rearm the navigation. No. Let's just keep 260 for ATC. We'll rearm the navigation after here. We're going to close that. Okay. Really important here, we have to check that the cabin is pressurizing, and it is at 410 feet per minute, and it's at 2,300 feet right now as we're climbing through 20,000. And we can also see that on the air display here. So altitude 2420, pressurizing at a ratio of 7.1 psi, the rate is 400 feet per minute, and our landing altitude at Curacao is 36 feet. And you see that finally the temperatures have equalized here, so it's 22 in where the passenger sections and 21 in the cockpit, 4 degrees in the forward cargo hull, and 10 degrees in the rear. Okay, did I put 29902 on the standby altimeter as well? Okay. We are going to turn off the auto brakes. That's part of the after takeoff checklist. All right. And that's it. Now we're going to rearm the navigation. That's it. Now we're good.
Turn left heading 240, resume on navigation. ALM 0789 heavy.
And she's going to turn left in a second. All right, guys, we've been having our heads too much in the cockpit here. Let's close that window. Nice.
Altitude.
Well, they're going to call us now.
ALM 078 on your heavy. Climb maintain flight level 400.
All right, 400.
Level 400. ALM 0789 heavy.
400 is dialed in, and we're going to continue our climb. Okay, so an important thing that I'd be doing here, I don't want to minimize the window, but basically I'd be checking my flight plan to make sure that we're burning the fuel that we say we're burning. So if we look at the progress page here, So I'm from this waypoint going to this waypoint here, and my estimated time overhead's at 21:19 Zulu, okay? And that is right here. So in a minute we'll be overhead. So then what I would look at is my fuel situation here. So my usable fuel on board, and this figure should, you know, be within a reasonable margin of error with what's on the flight plan. And what's really important here is that my estimated fuel on board by the time I get to my destination is roughly what we had mentioned earlier on, which was 20,000 pounds. So we actually have a little more right now. And then enough fuel to get to my alternate and still have 17,000 pounds of fuel left. So far we're in good shape here. We're gonna go back to flight plan and look outside. And of course the first officer would just go through all the systems. So right now the cabin altitude is at 4,000 feet. It's pressurizing nicely. Hydraulics are good, electrics are good. Fuel's all right. And as we're burning fuel, the pumps actually will equalize the tanks automatically. Okay, so we have no status error messages. Okay. And that's pretty much it. So that's it for now. So I'll get back to you guys once we're at cruise at 40,000 feet. Alright, so we're 13 minutes into our flight. So we're just 7 minutes late on our departure there. Actually, we weren't late because 2100 was our time that we're supposed to pull out of the gate, and I had added 10 minutes for our takeoff, so we actually took off 3 minutes earlier than planned. So the co-pilot, we had turned off his flight director initially, and we're going to want to put that back on. And that's it. All right. Alright guys, we're back and we're just approaching here our top of climb of 40,000 feet, which is this blue line here. And here's our ground speed, and here's our true airspeed. So as you can see, we're like 12 knots slower. 11 knots. Oh shit, we've got an engine fire, guys. Engine 2 fire. We're gonna go see the fuel switch. We're gonna turn it off. Next we're gonna pull the fire bottle to extinguish the fire. It's bring this down. We're going to push it in. We're going to turn it right. Okay, we're going to exhaust one of the fire bottles. We're going to push it back in, and we're going to get the other fire bottle going. Okay, so let's go take a look outside. Alright, fire's out. Okay, we won't be able to maintain 40,000 feet. Just going to put the master caution. I've got a master caution warning. I need to tell my flight management computer that we are one engine out and we are cruise flight above max flight level. Yes, I know this. Okay, so in reality we'd be calling ATC, we'd be declaring an emergency, we'd be sending our transponder code to 7700, and we'd be requesting an emergency descent, and then we would have to choose which airport we're going to go back. And just to show you that this exists, we can click on this closest airports and it'll give us the closest airports, but I want to go back to the origin airport, so we're going to go back to TNCM. So we're going to go here into flight plan, and from our current position we're going to put in TNCM for Princess Juliana. TNCM CM, new destination. We're going to clear our flight discontinuity. First officer is going to go take a look at, you see all these three are lit up because it wants us to check messages on each of those screens. So engine fire agent, that's fine. Hydraulic systems, the pump number 2 right and 2 left are not functional, so the hydraulic 2 is off. On the electric, our generator 2 is off, and then on the miscellaneous, our autopilot auto land is not working, but that's okay because it's not a category 3 runway anyway at St-Maarten. Alright guys, so I'm opting for what's called an RNAV approach, and I'll just show you that. And even though it's good weather, I don't need to do this approach, but we'll do it anyway. And we're just going to go to views here, full screen, and there you have it. So our initial fix is Avaki at 2,600 feet. Then we're going to descend to our final approach fix, which is Lesser. And here, let me see if I can just, there we go, Lesser. And then we're going to go through a 3-degree path all the way to our MAPN final approach or missed approach point, and then we're going to go ahead and land to the threshold here. So that's what the approach would look like if we were in bad weather, and basically we'll be descending at roughly 160 knots initially, and then 140 knots as we're putting in 50 degrees of flaps. So our rate of descent is anywhere between these two figures here to arrive on target, if you will. And we can see the runway now right in front of us here.
Approaching minimum.
Okay.
Minimum.
All right, minimum 700. We see the airport, and
500.
900.
400.
Okay. Just going to reduce my rate of descent here.
200.
A little less here. Towards the right. Okay.
100.
All right. Okay. Just a little to the left of the center line.
40. 30. 20. 10.
All right.
Spoilers deployed.
Okay. reversers.
Reverse thrust available. 80 knots. 60 knots.
And we're going to go ahead and stow the reversers. Okay, so we're just a little bit off center line here. And we'll take the video after.
100. $50, $40.